I'm proud to confirm that Wandsworth Labour is freezing your council tax for the 4th year in a row, and you will continue to pay the lowest council tax in the country. Labour is freezing council tax for the 4th year in a row because we are committed to keeping it low for our residents, knowing that this dreadful, unfair tax puts the greatest burden on people with the lowest incomes. Wandsworth Labour is freezing your council tax for the 4th year in a row. You will continue to pay the lowest council tax in the country because value for money is at the heart of everything Wandsworth Labour does. We know this unfair tax, and Wandsworth Labour is proud to deliver the lowest council tax in the country. We are focused on value for money. We're constantly improving the design and the delivery of our services. We're making sure developers pay their fair share.
Residents in Wandsworth will continue to pay the lowest council tax in the country under Wandsworth Labour.
The Leader's budget in 2 years' time has a black hole of 92 million if he meets all his savings targets and 137 million if he doesn't meet those savings targets. That's the biggest budget black hole in Wandsworth's history. And to put it in context for those watching the meeting tonight, 137 million is bigger than the council's entire annual staffing budget. So the Leader could sack every single person working for Wandsworth Council and he still wouldn't plug his budget gap. Mr. Mayor, I mean, the Leader just said with a straight face, better never stops. Under his leadership, this council has had the worst settlement of any council in England from the government. When Councillor Hogg's main job was to stand up for Wandsworth residents and get a good deal from the government, he got the worst deal of any council leader in the country. Other Labour councils in London and elsewhere have had a far better settlement than he has. So he was wrong. We're accusing you of lying. We're accusing you of trying to cover up the huge council tax rises that are coming under your budget. The reason we called the second meeting this evening is so that we could put on the public record the Executive Director of Finance's report to the Finance Committee, which shows that under the Labour government's own assumptions, council tax will have to go up by 86% in 3 years' time. That's not our words. Those are the Labour government's assumptions, and that is the council's independent Executive Director of Finance that has propagated that figure. So when Tony Bell...
Mr. Mayor, this is a fake freeze. Council tax has risen since Labour took over by 8.2%. The main rate of council tax, which they're keen to, they've all left now, the main rate of council tax has not been frozen for 4 years. In fact, your own budget figure shows that the main rate has increased by 6.1%. But the biggest way in which this is a fake freeze is the impression it gives to people, to residents in this borough, that everything is fine and your tax will continue to remain low. Councillor Belton talks about things coming through his door. This is what came through mine. Council tax freeze when council tax is going up by 2%. Well, you can clap. But what does it say? What does it say? It says we have some of the lowest levels of debt and highest financial reserves in London. And what does your budget say? What does your budget say about those things? Your budget says that rather than having some of the lowest levels of debt in London, you plan to borrow £1.1 billion at a cost of £2.5 billion. But you don't want to tell people about that. Your leaflet says that you have high reserves. Your budget says that those reserves will be nearly halved by next April. But the biggest dishonesty is on tax, because Councillor Belton objected to this leaflet. What does this leaflet say? It states what the government is telling you to do. Increase council tax by over 80%. Well, you say you're not going to do it, and yet every time you're asked to rule it out, we get weasel words and no answer. We've had it now 4 or 5 times this evening with no answer when asked precisely that question. So if we propose to be honest with people in this borough about the scale of the cuts that the Labour government is imposing. We are not going to commit to things we cannot deliver. And I think that is the difference between you and us.
We sent the Labour leadership from this council to lobby on our behalf to get a better and a fairer deal under this funding review for Wandsworth, and the next round of numbers was even worse. Why don't Wandsworth Labour publicly denounce these cuts like they have in the past? Why aren't they standing up for their residents? What are they thinking? Where's the outcry? Where's the public campaign? It's a disgrace. That's the background to this budget and council tax report, an enormous funding gap created by the Labour government. So we now have to come to the way in which this Labour administration are going to deal with it. And I think their strategy can be fairly summarised as the ostrich approach. They've completely buried their heads in the sand. The Cabinet member states in her report that the cuts do disadvantage Wandsworth, somewhat of an understatement, and that they can be managed without an additional burden on Wandsworth residents. I presume she's referring to the use of reserves, and it may seem obvious to say it, but obviously
started off with 206 million in reserves, inherited from the last Conservative administration. By 2027, he'll end up with 116 million, so he'll have spent nearly half of them. The following year, there's a budget black hole of 137 million. Now, just to take this slowly for Councillor Hogg, 137 million is larger than the reserves left of 116 million. So in 2 years, the council will be bankrupt unless, under his budget, he raises council tax, he cuts services, or he does a combination of both.
The report makes pretty staggering reading. On the government's own assessment of Wandsworth's financial position, just to replace the money they're taking away, before we get to the spending gap that you have, just to replace the money that's been taken away, council tax would have to increase after the election by more than 80%. On the budget that you passed tonight, assuming, quite heroically, that you make £45 million worth of savings in a time frame that no one has ever made them before, you would still have to increase council tax by more than 130% to meet the gap. And if you fail to meet the gap, that's 78%, and then there's another couple of million of government cuts the year after. So it would actually be over 180% increase in council tax.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's disappointing, I think, to hear some of the rhetoric that we're hearing about why we're here this evening. This isn't an act of pomposity. This meeting's not needless. We're not wasting our time. We're here to do the job of work that we were elected to do, which is look at budgets, understand how money is being spent, and look at the long-term impact on our residents. And nothing could be more important than examining the details of the fairer funding review and the impact it's going to have on this borough.
Yes, when we took over the council in 2022, we inherited a £53 million black hole from you by 2025. Not only did we fill that, balance the budget, increase frontline resources, we also froze council tax. And let me tell you as well, we paid down more than £50 million of debt that you left us as well. So our position is strong. Looking at surrounding boroughs, our reserves are larger than those in Richmond, in Lambeth, in Kensington, in Chelsea. In fact, they're larger than the reserves of all of those councils combined. We face an uncertain future, but local people know that they can trust Wandsworth Labour to demonstrate sound financial management. We've collected £230 million in developer taxes since 2022, and we've used this money, among other things, to deploy state-of-the-art CCTV technology, increasing community safety across Wandsworth, and to deliver record investment in our parks and green spaces. To be London's Borough of Culture, pulled in £2.3 million of external funding, which we use to invest in a series of memorable events across Wandsworth. I hope you'll all be able to join us at Battersea Power Station on March the 21st for The Beat Goes On.
A few moments later.
We have high reserves, low debt, an absolute commitment to value for money, and a plan to transform into the council for the future. Our ranking, one of the best councils in the country for productivity and value for money, returns. And our budget proposals include ambitious transformation programmes started before this funding change was announced. We will go further in reforming the council because better never stops. We are focused on the future, making Wandsworth into a modern, digitally accessible council and a fairer, more compassionate place.
A few moments later.
You know, we've increased CCTV capacity, adding 4 live monitoring officers and introduced 3 new CCTV vans, those wonderful blue vans that you see around the borough to provide. There is so much that sits behind this. This Labour Council, the first in Wandsworth for 44 years, has put fairness, compassion and the voice of residents back at the heart of this town hall. That's why we continue to invest in our streets and our neighbourhoods to make them cleaner, safer, greener and fairer. We were ambitious in our 2022 manifesto and we've made huge strides in delivering on our commitments. 1,000 new council homes with 500 built, occupied and the rest on the way. All council workers, whether on staff or on a contract, now receiving a living wage. Our council on track to be carbon neutral by 2030 with 3 consecutive A grades for our work. We've doubled the support for victims as we tackle the scourge of domestic
A few moments later.
violence. But there is a very clear choice ahead of us in just a very few weeks. Wandsworth Labour on the side of residents fighting for change, making the borough better, or the Wandsworth Tories, tired, ineffective, out of touch, with the wrong values and no new ideas and a revolving door to reform. Because make no mistake, they oppose most of the progress that we've made and they would reverse it if allowed anywhere near power again.
I was in their position for 26 years, would you believe? And for 26 years, I struggled with what do you do when the council tax is 0, which happened once upon a time. Do you put an amendment saying increase council tax, increase from 0 to something that would have been responsible and credible or whatever? Do you say cut it? Well, that's obviously not possible. But one thing I genuinely remember is that almost always we took a stance. We actually decided to vote for something or other. It may have been a bit of a losing gamble, but we took a stance. Tonight, as of this moment, I don't know whether the minority party is arguing that we should increase council tax or lower it. They're talking about being responsible and about trust, but they haven't actually said what they're going to do. Now, if we're talking about trust, and I guess just coming up to a council election, that's something that many people would be concerned about, then at least it might be useful if we knew what their position was.
So you've been shouting all evening about straight answers, straight talk. So are you happy to do a bit of question and answer? You happy to do some yes or no questions? Council tax freeze. I just want to hear from on the council tax freeze, right? We've been badgered all night. Oh, it's not a real freeze. It's not a proper freeze because we're freezing the main part of the council tax, but rightly on social care, the adult social care precept, we've done the 2%. And we've done that every single year. So we freeze the main part and we raise the 2%. And you think we shouldn't call that a freeze? Is that, Councillor Caddy, as you sat in the cabinet in the last administration, you think we shouldn't call that a freeze? Is that? So how come, if I'm reading out from the Wandsworth Conservative website in 2021, that Wandsworth Conservative Council has frozen your council tax, but is raising the social care precepts? Every single year,
Councillor Dicklin, will you take an intervention?
You did exactly the same thing.
Will you take an intervention?
Every single
Will you take an
year.
intervention?
I'm happy to take an intervention.
And admittedly, both sides are guilty of this, but I think this let me finish. But I think this perfectly exemplifies just the horror of this whole setup to people at home. There's an £85 million cut coming. Please address the elephant in the room. It doesn't matter what someone says on their leaflets or someone else says.
Fine.
Who cares about that? I haven't raised that, but I have raised the £85 million hole in our... Well, it's not. It's £137 million.
Councillor Caddy, there's an entire...
Please address that.
Of course. There's an entire second meeting. I would be more than happy to, and there's going to be an entire second meeting until midnight for us to talk about that, because you have tabled it. But I just wanted to clarify, because you just dodged the question. You just said, oh, yes, we did do that, but now I want to talk about this other thing. I just want to get categorically on record that the way that the council tax freeze announcements is totally on the same course that you did for the years I was in opposition. On the point of the financial settlement, Wandsworth's been given, we've got to be frank, it's a massive challenge, right? Earlier in this meeting, and every single time that we come out and we take a strong stand against either a Labour government or a Labour mayor or another Labour politician, on behalf of Wandsworth residents, you always kind of, you go nuts, you say, oh, look, division, division, division. Absolutely not. There is no division here. This is a Wandsworth Labour council that will stand up for Wandsworth residents and will fight and will defend our position and will stand up. And I know that's been happening and you know that's been happening. And there's absolutely no contradiction between when you're literally months ago handed a massive, massive set of decisions to make, that you think about it seriously, that you think about it properly, that you don't just make a knee-jerk reaction. And the reason why you want a knee-jerk reaction from us is because of everything that I said in my last speech, which is you want to distract from the fact that we have actually done what you thought was impossible. We have kept the council tax low for the last 4 years, but we've also delivered an incredibly progressive agenda, an agenda that covers a whole range of things that working class residents in Wandsworth who've been feeling the pinch for years are really, really benefiting from. Now, there are a series of very quick savings that we know that you can easily make, and you will probably make, right? And they're things that you are refusing to commit to. On the 1,000 homes, you're against the borrowing on the 1,000 homes. Just come out and be open and say that the other 500 you're going to sell, because that's exactly what we know we're going to do. You have opposed all of our building of council housing up until now. We know you've flipped them.
We still don't actually know what the abstainer-in-chief's position is.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. This is leaders' questions. And the leader's keen to talk about us and not his own
point of order. We almost made it through the first question before the bully boys weighed in. But
Mr. Mayor, is he asking me a direct question? Because I'll answer. We'll protect weekly bin collections.
What?
Just listen to Councillor Hogg's answer, please. Yeah.
I'm happy to answer questions if Councillor Hogg wants to ask them.
Carry on, Councillor Hogg, please. Please, members, you and the public will decide what you think about the answers, but let Councillor Hogg give his answer.
Mr. Mayor, the supplementary was about efficiency savings. These aren't efficiency savings. Mr. Mayor, are you going to chair this meeting?
Including £4.5 million.
Members, as Verity Richardson's advised us, we don't have to agree with each other. Let Councillor Hogg answer it in the way he wants to answer it.
A few moments later.
Existing services through innovation.
Mr. Mayor, you really need to stop this filibuster.
And delivered on our pledges to residents, all while maintaining the lowest council tax in the country.
The members are challenging me, and my response is, if you look at Standing Order 11A, X1, the form of reply for the leader or the cabinet member answering the question is for them.
Tough. We need serious people. Wandsworth Tories, as we can see tonight, are unserious people. Your politics is narrow and pedantic and angry. So we have a choice. Do you trust our strong, principled team who have experience running the council? Or do you trust the bully boys of the Wandsworth Tories?
Financial stability.
Please.
Sir,
let Councillor Graham.
I don't mind. If he had any guts, he'd stand up and make an intervention. But he hasn't done that. He's just heckling.
Members, it's been a long meeting, and I realise there are strong feelings on all sides of the debate. Please, can we try to show mutual respect? We are elected as representatives of all the residents of this wonderful borough. I expect better behaviour, please.
We're here at this late hour because he's pompously insisted on having a whole second meeting, so we have to listen to him again.
Mr. Mayor, you're refusing the chance for the last two councillors to speak.
This is not for debate. I understand it's forthwith.
Mr. Mayor, could you at least give us your reasons for curtailing debate? Because it is now your personal choice to allow the administration to shut down debate, as they have done successively over their entire time.
No, I'm not going to give reasons. I think my decision is it's going for a vote.
I'll say, Mr. Mayor, I think it's a very sad way to end your thing. This is quite outrageous that the majority power can use their majority to close down all debate. Because if there is a change of control and an incoming administration decides to close every debate down after two speeches, it will not improve life in this chamber. And I do think, Mr. Mayor, you have a duty to... Under the whole nature of the standing orders, you have a duty to protect. against an elective dictatorship, and I'm not convinced that you've done that.